Or another year. Time's passing by quick. We'll get started here. I'd like to first of all, call the meeting to order. If y'all would please stand for the pledge, I appreciate it. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please silence your cell phones. Do mine. Ms. Suttles, would you have roll call, please?
Mayor Plummer,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks,
Here.
Commissioner Fields,
Here.
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
Commissioner Withrow.
Here.
We have a quorum and ready for the transaction of business.
Ms. Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. First item is number 4, approval of the meeting minutes. We have one for a regular meeting on December 13th, 2022. Are there any questions or concerns or corrections to those minutes as presented? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item 5A, which is the adoption of an ordinance for our franchise agreement provision for our electric services. So this is related, we had a workshop on November 29th to discuss our expiring franchise agreement with Kentucky Utilities. We walked through timelines, a bunch of information related to that, and I will let Brian kind of go through process of where we are, but we'll come back, and the ultimate discussion that we'll need to have for guidance is related to length of the term of service and the rate that we want to have it set at. So we have drafted a potential draft of the ordinance which has a length of term of 7 years. And the thought process behind that from a staff perspective is that did align all of our franchise agreements to be expiring at the same time, so that when we're going through the process of renewing our other franchise agreements, that we would be doing all of them at once. As far as the rate goes, we have put a placeholder in there of 3%. Just as we looked, we imagined that was the highest that we likely would consider, but there's still some discussion of where we want to be. Currently, our rate in practice comes out to be about 1.24%, but we discussed that the old way they calculated it is expiring and a new way is going in. So it's not quite an apples to apples calculation, but we're at about 1.24% now. So we'll want to have some further discussions on the rate. But first I'll let Brian kind of talk through the process, and we also have Miss Kathy here from Kentucky Utilities.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a great summary. What I did with this franchise agreement was largely follow the one we did with Columbia Gas, and I think it was 2019. So just tracked a lot of that. We, at the same time we did that you all did that Columbia Gas franchise agreement, we also passed the ordinance dealing with street cuts. Obviously it's a little bigger issue with Columbia Gas than it is with KU, but there are some times that comes into play. So a lot of that language largely tracks that. Been through the PSC process. What you have redlined in front of you in the ordinance, there was a request. Obviously this will be negotiated as part of the bidding process, and so we wanted to add that discretion in, and so that's the red line addition that I've put in there, that city manager is authorized to negotiate the terms of the franchise agreement with terms substantially similar. So substantially similar kind of is a term of art that sometimes folks request, so happy to put that into this. So the process is, once we have the second reading, we will then issue the bid, and then any regulated utility by the PSC has to get consent from the PSC to then respond to the bid. So that's a process that obviously KU would have to go through, and any other electric company that is in town. I don't know of any, but if there are any, they certainly would do this as well. And then at that point, they get that permission from the PSC. They would then respond with the bid that then allows Jamie and whoever Jamie would like to assist her on that to work with KU to kind of go back and forth if there are some things. I think the direction we primarily needed from you all, and I think we get a sense of what that is do we have it at the 7 years? And the reason for that would be within a 12-month period of time, we would have the gas, we still call it cable, the cable, television cable, and the electric all would be within 12 months. So we kind of do them all at once, and it's not every 2 to 3 years. And then the rate at 3%. So every term in that agreement is important. Those two are really important. It is set up on a quarterly payment. I think they're all on quarterly payments. Of course, they are billed monthly. One thing I know that Kathy and her team has flagged is that they want to make sure that when the franchise agreement goes into place, that kind of starts the clock. So in other words, they have to go a full quarterly billing cycle at the new rate. And I don't personally have a problem with that. I'm sure you all would understand that from a billing perspective. That's exactly what we'd want to be doing.
I think we talked about 5 years, so doing it to 7 with all of them within the 12-month period just makes sense.
Yeah, I'm good with that too.
Ms. Kathy, did you have anything before we start the discussion on the rate? Did you have anything that you wanted to add for the commission to consider?
No, I'm good, thank you.
As Brian indicated, we do anticipate there'll be some changes to the terms that are placed before you today, and we'll continue to discuss any of those as appropriate. So I think the remaining item, if we have consensus, and we'll come back and make sure we have, can I get consensus? We have 2 inputs on the length of the term. Am I able to get consensus on the length of the term?
That's fine.
Okay. Perfect. So then the last major item that leaves out, unless there are other terms that you see before you that cause you concern, is the rate. So we had provided some information last time to show that the average rate around the state is set at 3% for the KU customers. Our current rate is about 1.24%. So we've provided a couple of documents for you. One breaks down the change in revenue that the city would receive based on different 0.5%. So if we went to 1.5% versus 2% versus 2.5%. Also, there is a breakdown of the customer impact chart, the same way that breaks down by 0.5% rates to show what the anticipated, and this is just an estimation. This is not, a exact science for every household, but is a representation of the different types of customers and what they would experience at each of those percentage rates. And then we also, one of the items that was requested before was, what does our Kentucky utilities bill look like? So there's a breakdown of 12 months of our KU bill that the city pays for our services. So if we go to the customer impact chart, that's one of the ones I wanted to make sure to highlight. Again, we have 3% placed in there just as a placeholder to start the discussion today. But we want to be mindful, of course, that when we look at all of our size of our customers, the impact that could have on them. So, when we do look at our largest industrial customer, that is quite a significant increase. So again, that 3% was just there as a placeholder. I anticipate that we will come in somewhere between the 1.5% to 2.5%, 3% rate, but it is the pleasure of the commission of where we move forward on that.
So basically, this locks it in. If we could choose 3%, it's locked in for 7 years.
I think we had some discussions that we would have to talk with KU of, could we defer a rate adjustment for a period of time? I believe last time the discussion was it would have to be on even increments, that we would have to adjust that. Brian, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit to that, but we could write potentially in some language to defer the increase, to scale it in potentially.
I think if it wanted to be a fluctuating rate or flexible rate, you can't just say, well, at 36 months, we'll look and see what that might be. I think we have to schedule what it's going to be.
I don't know if you had any input on that.
That is correct. I mean, it's written up in the agreement so that you can review it before the expiration. It does have to be in even increments. And then the city, of course, would contact KU to say, yes, we would like to review, and then at that time we could do that. But it would have to be written up in the agreement itself for us to do that. So if that's something you want to do, let us know and we'll work with you on that.
Now with the proposed term being a 7-year agreement, can you talk to me a little bit about what that would look like? Would just 3.5 years, or does it matter that we're looking at an odd year?
That is something that I would have to take back to our franchise team and let them look at, because I was understanding that it would have to be in even increments within the term. But any questions that you have as far as the agreement goes, we can take back and get those answers for you.
So Brian, are we allowed to, let first reading state that it's 3% and then change it then before we adopt it?
Sure.
I feel like we should go with the 3% and see what input we get from people.
Okay.
And then we can address it when we approve the ordinance.
We have consensus. It appears we have consensus
Yes.
for that, so we will go ahead and move forward in the process with published of a 3% rate as well as a 7-year term, and then we will have a second reading on this, and so this will be published appropriately to solicit input, and we will reconvene on this item at a later date.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any further direction you think we need on this one?
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
That does bring us to number 6, consent agenda. Since it is January, I figure we can go over rules of engagement for a consent agenda. The way we handle this is presented in whole as an item. If there is any item that you'd like to pull off and discuss separately and vote separately on, we would do that. If not, the items move forward under one vote. So today we do have 7 items to be considered under consent. Are there any items that any of the commission members would like to pull off and discuss separately? Hearing none, may I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good deal.
That does
You
bring
don't play
us-
around, do you?
That brings us to a regular agenda. First item A is appointment to our boards and committees. So city commissioners sit on various boards and committees on behalf of the city, where they attend, they represent the city, bring back information to the commission as a whole that may be important for discussion. So we have a number of those seats that we need to fill, and my suggestion on this process, and happy to do it any other way that you guys would like, but I have the list here of seats that we need to fill. We can go and request who's volunteering or interested in each seat, and then I would read the slate of appointments, and then we can address that in one vote, if that would work for everybody. So the first one, we have Chamber of Commerce. I do have Ms. Fields listed there because interest was expressed. However, if anybody else is interested in that, you guys could obviously have some discussion on that.
I'm good with it.
Commissioner Fields, are you
I'm
still
fine.
interested in that?
Yes.
Perfect. That brings us to the 911 and the EMS board. Those don't have to be handled together, but they meet one after the other. So from a efficiency standpoint, it's very helpful to have the same member assigned to those. Currently, the mayor is assigned to that, and Commissioner Gibson was the second party. Both of those interlocal agreements just say it has to be 2 members of commission. Mayor, I'm not sure if you're still interested in serving on those,
Yes,
and
yeah.
so we would just need 1 member interested to serve on those as a
I
second.
started it for years. I'm familiar with the, all of it, so.
That's good.
Everybody good with that?
On some of these committees and boards, is it okay for some of the former city commissioners to still be on those boards? Or once they're not on the this commission, do they automatically give up those seats, or can we ask them to stay longer?
So the way a lot of these interlocal agreements are written, it is a member of the Board of Commissions. So if it's our formal appointment, their term would end
Okay,
when the commission ends. Some of them are not worded that way. So for example, on the EDA and the Parks and Recreation Board, we have prior city commissioners assigned seats as our representative, assigned by the mayor and approved by commission, but those don't require those to be commission members. So all of the ones that we're talking about in this list are required to be current
Okay.
sitting commission members. I do have a list of other ones that we need to fill
Okay.
if other commission members are interested. I mean, prior commission members. Next one we have is the Tourism Commission.
since the chamber and tourism work together, I don't mind serving on that.
Fun.
Sounds good.
The mayor does serve on the EDA as the next officio member. So those are our external community partners and joint agency assignments. We'll move next to internal work groups that we've identified over the past year. These are groups that are still required to follow public meeting rules, and they are assigned on behalf of the city. Some of them are more active than others, and part of the discussion I would encourage us to have today is, do we need all of these committees? Do we want to continue with them? We can, or work groups, if you will, we can stand them up as we need, and we can obviously, pull them apart once a project is complete. So just as we go through that, I've left blanks for what we have historically done, but we can change some things up. So the first one is the Employee Benefits Committee. Typically, we've had 2 commissioners sit and review as we renew our benefits as a work group before it comes to the group as a whole. Is that a committee we're interested in keeping, or would we like to, and if so, could I get 2 people interested in that?
Does it seem to, have we always had this? Is this something new?
No, we haven't always had it.
Is it-
Just people wanting some oversight on it. I think it's one you can call up when you need it, or let the mayor appoint a committee when we're going into negotiation on benefits or something. That's my personal
It
opinion.
seemed, I think it'd be great to have the input, to try to get the best benefits possible for our people. If it's something you need to appoint today, or just on a per meet basis, like you said, you could call.
Historically, we just always shared it with everybody anyway.
And we do have a broker that helps on our behalf that's negotiating our benefits. So this is certainly something, if, as we get into negotiation season, we find that we want to pull up and have a work group we could assign at that time. We can eliminate this for now. We may, as we look forward, I know I've shared with some of you the loss ratios that we're expecting are trending pretty high. So we do expect that the renewal for insurance this year will be an important thing for us to discuss carefully, but we can.
I kind of think that, if it's, you call some commissioners and maybe Wallace and Ms. Fields sit in, and a couple weeks later, there's another meeting, says we can't all be together outside this chamber, maybe Mike and I sit in, or maybe I'm having some type of procedure and can't make it, and Sharon can. Might be easier than to appoint just 2 of us at this time, is my thoughts.
Can you do that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. I like that idea.
The next one is the Audit Committee. This is one that is utilized by city ordinance, so we will have to make an assignment, or we could potentially change the ordinance if there was interest. This one, and Commissioner Brooks currently serves on it, so we would need 1 more person. This is related to our purchasing oversight. Currently, the department heads have the authorization to go up to a purchase of $500. The city manager has an authorization to go up to $5,000. Anything over $5,000 goes to the Audit Committee, which is required to then go and gain approval from 2 of the commissioners for any purchases. Past that, anything over 15,000 comes to the city commission. So we would need a second person. This person would also serve as a signer on the checks. So the mayor serves as a signer on the checks, and Wallace serves as a
I'll
signer on
do
the
that.
checks.
If everybody's okay with it, I've been there before, and I'll do that. I'm familiar with those.
That's good.
The next one is, it started as a discussion related to tiny homes, but I've taken it upon myself to change that really to a discussion of the overlay district. So this would be similar to, we have the code enforcement items that we're discussing and working as a smaller group before it comes to the big one. This would give Andrea a point of contacts for the city commission to discuss the overlay district as that continues to be developed. And if you'd like, Andrea could give you a brief overview of what the overlay district is if you need that. Sorry, Andrea, not to put you on the spot. But this would give her 2 points of contact of people coming to the meetings, having discussion with all of the community partners on their interest and providing recommendations forward to the commission on how we move forward.
I think this, Sharon and myself are already working on code
On
enforcement,
codes.
so we're
Yes.
working with her, so I think we can just carry over into
Overlay
that,
district as well.
if that's okay.
The next one is the transfer station project. This would just be our point of contacts as we, again, as we discuss this project and work through them. We would need 2 people on the transfer station relocation subgroup.
I'm already, or I'm somewhat involved a little bit, so I would like to serve on that if I could.
I live in that area, so I'm very much interested. You gotta get on a committee, son.
EMS 911.
These two right here
Okay.
just keep you so busy.
The next one that we have is recreation and trails. This isn't one that I've had much experience with us using as a work group quite yet. This would be separate from the Parks and Recreation Board. But we have historically, I saw there was 2 assignments for the recreation and trails. So the other part of this is not only work group as we address major projects, but as citizens call and want to discuss issues, it provides a primary point of contact that it's the person who's knowledgeable or go to discuss and be involved in what's going on with our recreation and trails.
It's always been Wallace.
There was a second name on here, if we'd like to have a second person assigned. Mayor, thank you. Okay, the next one is the budget committee. Obviously, this comes before all of you, thorough discussions, but it's my understanding this was used as a smaller group to go over some of the items that were being considered before coming to a group. So I showed that historically there were 2 people serving on the budget committee if there's an interest to continue this.
I'll stand there.
I'll join.
All right, next one is net metering, and we had historically 1 person assigned to this work group. If we want to continue that process, so staff is still continuing to work on it,
I'm
but.
a little bit familiar with that, so.
All right, and then we have the senior citizen work group, and we had 2 people historically serve on that.
Does that count me as well?
Yeah. And more.
Yeah.
So then,
Who's the other one?
Sharon Fields and Mayor Miller. So then code enforcement, we have Commissioner Withrow and Commissioner Fields. And then the last one that we have historically assigned is the comprehensive plan. However, we do not anticipate any work group to be done in the next 2 years on the comprehensive plan, so we're not going to make any assignment. Are there any questions or comments before I read the slate to be voted on?
Do you want to add the pro temp?
We can do the
In
pro
my
temp here.
oversight, she had sent me this list and completely slipped my mind that you would appoint the mayor pro tem at the first meeting of the term. So if you all want to add that to this list, and then, and my apologies, I meant to put that in there.
And Jeannie, I'm sorry, if you don't mind, if you all would be willing to go ahead and do the comprehensive plan task force, I think it would be advantageous to go ahead and do that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could have we would need 2 people for the comprehensive plan, and then the mayor pro tem.
I'll do the comprehensive, and then traditionally, it's been the highest vote getter. So I would say Commissioner Brooks.
Wallace.
Good with Wallace, yeah.
Could I get one more for the comprehensive plan?
Oh,
Commissioner Brooks, are you okay with the mayor pro tem? Okay. Great. Any other final questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So then the motion would be to approve the assignments as follows. Chamber of Commerce, Commissioner Fields, E911, Commissioner Gray, EMS, Commissioner Gray, Tourism, Commissioner Fields, EDA, Mayor Plummer. Employee benefits would be void at this time. Audit Committee, Commissioner Brooks and Commissioner Withrow. Overlay District, Commissioner Fields and Commissioner Withrow. Transfer Station, Commissioner Withrow, Commissioner Fields. Recreation and Trails, Commissioner Brooks, Mayor Plummer. Budget, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Gray. Net metering, Commissioner Withrow. Senior Citizen, Commissioner Fields, Mayor Plummer. Code Enforcement, Commissioner Withrow, Commissioner Fields. Comprehensive Plan, Commissioner Gray, Commissioner Withrow, and Mayor Pro Tem is with Commissioner Brooks. May I have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The next item that we have is the approval of the 2023 meeting schedule. Our ordinance calls for the meeting to be held at 9 a.m. on the second and the fourth Tuesday, and the schedule placed before you has that put in place as well. I do know that over the last 2 years that there has been night quarterly meetings. We would have to amend the schedule if we wanted to include that, but what's presented is in line with the ordinance. May I have a motion, and then we can discuss if there are any amendments that we want to make.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
A second. Okay. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns on this item?
When you had your night meetings, did very many people show up?
So I was only present for 2 of them. I would say it was the same
Okay, for
attendance for the morning, the regular meetings that I've seen in the evening meetings. We do tend to get a lot of people involved or engaged via watching us on different electronic platforms, for example, Facebook, and I know we're looking to try to expand what platforms we're available to be viewed on. But
Are you able to see afterwards how many viewed the meeting? Usually pretty good number.
in my opinion, tremendous engagement online, people watching the meetings.
And
It's really
if we
great.
need to move or have a special meeting, we always can.
Absolutely. But that was just my experience based on the 2 meetings in Center Fields. I don't want to profess that would be representative of every meeting.
You know, in the past, I had people, couldn't really adjust to changing to the day schedule and really pushed to want to get meetings back to nights. I'm gonna have one person during this last campaign even mentioned it to me, so this seems to work from, my experience and from what I've seen. And I don't see any needs myself, my own opinion, for any changes.
All right, there is a motion on the floor to keep the schedule as per the city ordinance, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to November financials, Brad.
Thank you. So we'll be on page 89 here, and first thing we have is the cash balance for the general fund. And what I typically like to do is just show or the trailing 4 months cash balances, and then also kind of give you a history of the last fiscal year ending for 3 years. So at the end of November, we were basically on our operating funds at $10,789,000. As you'll see, our ARPA funds are at $2.3 million, and that is our full allotment. There might be a couple, 2 to 3 or 2 to 5,000 that may come in from any discretionaries that's left over, but we have not spent that money, and that's still just kind of sitting in our savings account at this point in time. Overall cash balance, you can see for the general fund is at 11 million once we factor in our restricted. Year to date, with recent increases in the interest rate, you can see that our interest income is increasing pretty significant over last year and over the last couple months, to where we're at 25,726 in interest income for the year. Moving on to page 90, have basically a summary of our general fund revenues and expenditures by department. On page 91, you'll see that our current revenues in the actual column are 4.8 million. We're pretty much right on where we projected budget-wise. For the year, I think we should be right around 40 to 45%, so pretty much tracking where we had anticipated. I'm starting to throw in some projections, how we will end up through the fiscal year at this point in time, and as you can see, for revenue standpoint, we pretty much should be right on where we had budgeted our revenues, right around 10.4 million. Our expenditures year to date are at 3.9 million, almost 4 million. So that gives us revenues over expenditures of 817,000. Projecting out through the year, looks like our revenues at this point in time, and obviously this is a fluctuating number as we go month by month, but right now we're anticipating revenues to be exceeding expenditures by 380,000 in the general fund. Moving on to page 92 is the utility fund cash balances. You'll see from an operating standpoint, we have unrestricted funds right around $1 million, 1.1 million really, and then 390,000 is still kind of restricted or designated to finish up the water meter project. I anticipate probably sometime by the end of June that project will be finished and that money will be dispersed. As you'll see in restricted funds, we're up to 1.8 million. One thing that I do want to kind of point out to you is on the construction funds, the very first line there, that's 1.4 million or almost 1.5 million. We've been able to really, since about March, April, start setting a lot of funds aside, excess funds, and so what we do on this account is we track both the electric meter fee and then also any kind of savings that we can set aside. So at the end of November, we had about 550,000 of that 1.5 million was basically deemed to be a savings account balance, and that's where we have been using to pay for the High Street line refitting and everything. So, and we actually just made the last payment in here this week for that line. So our balance, savings balance, is now down to 361 in that account, but that's something we have not been able to do over the last couple of years, is build up any kind of a cash reserve in the utility fund. But I anticipate probably moving forward, and we did not have to borrow any money for that High Street line, and that's close to about $1 million project. So very, very encouraging on the utility fund side as far as how the cash has been. We've been working with the cash balances on that. Page 93, once again, you get the summary of our revenues and then expenditures by department. Pretty much trending along with where we anticipated. Right now, our revenues are at 5.6 million, or sorry, 5.1 million. Our expenditures are at 4.2 million. Gives us revenues over under on expenditures of 883,000. One of the big things that we have on our budget, obviously, is the transfer station, and then also the water plant improvements. Both of those are in excess of 3.5 million, either from grant revenues or potential borrowing of money. And so right now if you kind of look at our actual to our budget, that's the reason why we're behind. Some of those projects are just kind of getting started and not sure if we'll really hit those marks from a budget standpoint. But even just kind of projecting out, if we still do get all those projects kind of finished up in time, once again, the numbers a little bit will fluctuate month by month as we get in there, but on our projections right now, revenues could potentially exceed our expenditures by 1.4 million. But like I said, I do anticipate that probably changing as we go through the next 6 months. So, and that's our financial report. And then you have the details, line by line details for the remainder of the pages.
Thank you, Brad. I'd move we accept the financial.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brad. That brings us to reports. Ms. Betty Ann, do you want to take us out?
Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you all this year, next year, maybe years to come. So, and Sharon, thank you for agreeing to work with the Tourism Commission. Appreciate it. I come with good news today for you all that don't know. Over the past year, we've been working to get ARPA funds from the federal government, sent it to the state, and then we, as counties and regions, wrote grants for funding. So I am happy to announce that we received our check, and we're considered, I wrote it for the Destination Management Organization. There was different pots of money that you could write for. So that's what we qualified more for than some of the other ones. So we received our check, Paul, for $43,499. With that said, that's exciting news to me and everybody.
Your mic on.
I had to turn on.
Get closer to it.
Get closer to it?
There we go.
Oh, that's. No, I'm not gonna hold it, because then I have to put it in my hand. Again, $43,499, if you didn't hear the good news. And they were kind of late because of different things in getting us the funding, so this funding is to be spent by December 2024. It is only for marketing. So, with that said, that is a whole nother job with all the different aspects that I wrote for in marketing. So we have hired, our commission decided to hire a marketing firm to come and manage this grant and all the funding in it. We will just, he's not gonna manage the funding. I'll manage the funding, and our commission will approve all the different things that he's gonna do. January 18th, next Wednesday, from 11:30 to 3 o'clock, his name's David Caldwell, and he will be doing a brainstorming meeting with the Tourism Commission. I've invited Jamie to come. Sharon, you're perfectly welcome to come now. And the newspaper, they'll be there as well.
Where will you meet?
At the city barn. And we will provide lunch. So that's gonna give everybody an opportunity to talk about what they, the direction that we need to go in. And that's very exciting, because we've not done that in a long time. So I can't wait to see what happens. So I'll be reporting, monthly on the progress and what we've been doing. The other thing over, I guess it was in December, Jamie, when we had the transient room tax Zoom call, Transient room tax helps fund the tourism department in Bourbon County and everywhere, actually across the state. So a 3% tax is put on the person that comes to spend the night in one of the bed and breakfasts or the hotels. Over the past forever, the tax has been collected by the city treasurer. So the bed and breakfast pay that to Stephanie. Stephanie then sends the money to me. House Bill 8 has changed that. The state is going to collect the tax now directly from Airbnb, VRBO, and any other entities like that. They will then send the check to Stephanie, and then she'll send it to me. Now, with that said, we may find that, and I know for a fact that there's bed and breakfasts out there operating that we just don't know about. So, and if they're not paying their tax, it's very hard to find them. We may be getting more funding, which is what I have double fingers crossed, hoping for. With that said, I talked to Matt Cook, and after the meeting, Jamie and I kind of talked that it's going to be quite a transition. There will be a lot of challenges in it. And I talked to Matt Cook, and he said he felt like, yes, it was going to work, but yes, as anything new, there's going to be lots of kinks to work out. So, of course, it worries me because that's where lots of my funding comes, so hopefully there won't be too many kinks for too long. So I'll keep you all updated on that as well. Let's see, Secretariat Park is still underway. You all have seen that the ground got leveled. Tourism has a seat on that. This is not a tourism project by any stretch. It is the Secretariat Park Foundation project, and they're nonprofit, but Tourism Chamber, Claiborne Farm, and local people have a seat on that foundation. The park has been cleared. Last night we had a meeting and met with another, we've already had a presentation by one landscaping, architects, etc. for the park. And last night we had another one. So we'll be making a decision pretty soon as to which one we're going to choose. And it's going to be a hard decision because both of them were quite beautiful, but it will all come down to money and how much we can raise. And with that said, our fundraising is really kicking off now. So that's exciting news. November the 11th, mark it on your calendar because that's when the bronze statue is coming to Paris. Little things that are happening, the quilt show downtown Paris is starting next week, and some people have already got their quilts in the windows. And we are working on a Downtown Merchants Association. I have 2 people that have agreed to be the co-chairman, so that's a good thing. Any questions?
Lots of good news.
Thanks, Vivian. Sandra?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to those of you who are new on the commission. I look forward to working with you all as well. I am going to have a little lengthier update also. I do want to go over a couple of the initiatives that we've been working on policy-wise, and then as far as development is concerned, some of the activity that you're seeing around town, just so that when citizens approach you, you're able to either pass them on to us to give them more complete information, but give knowledgeable responses. So many of you may have noticed near Walmart, there's quite a large equipment over there adjacent to the Walmart parking lot. That property is known as Magnolia Trace. It is a new housing development that is going in. There's also some property in there that's zoned commercial, but the first phase of the development is 47 new housing units. Now, when I say housing units, the developer is going to be putting in townhomes, or row houses, so to speak. And so the entrance point to that property is right at the end of Letton Drive, where you see gates there, past the gas station. So they are right now working on grading the property. They're going to be putting in a temporary detention basin, for that first phase of the development. So, you know, when folks approach you about that, that's what's going on over there right now. They are trying to find some commercial tenants for, or investors for a couple of properties that are most closely to the Walmart parking lot. So we'll keep you posted as to what's going on with those properties. There also is development going in out at Houston Oaks, the Bourbon Oaks area. Many of you that have been out there, the road is complete. It's right off of Cross Creek Drive as you come into the subdivision on your left-hand side. The first phase of that development is 32 single-family housing units. So I believe the developer is at the point where they are going to be marketing those lots for sale and maybe doing a few display homes there. The last development I wanted to bring to your attention is at the corner of 20th and Main Street. That is called Providence Place. It is going to be an apartment building. There are 15 units that will go in that building. So you may have already noticed the developer has done some grading and he started to put fencing up around those properties. So those are the 3 housing developments I wanted to make you aware of. I'm right now in the process of doing the annual report for 2022. So I look forward to sharing that with you all when we're done. It'll show how many permits we've issued and what the investment activity has been in Bourbon County over the past year. I will be presenting that report at the EDA board meeting next Wednesday. So please, I know that meeting's open to the public actually, so if you would like to attend that presentation, please do. So for those of you that are joining on comprehensive plan, I did want to make you aware that I still have some final writing to do on the plan, and that's why I suggested that you all go ahead and get some volunteers for that task force. So as that plan is being finalized, I'll let you all know. The community engagement's complete on it. As you recall, we had many meetings over the course of a period of time. At this point, it's just a matter of me putting my nose to the grindstone and finishing up the written portion. As far as policy-wise, so we have the code enforcement group that's been meeting. So in the next couple of months, we're going to be looking to establish a new code enforcement ordinance that will establish a joint code enforcement board. That's been a long time coming, and we're getting very close. The second is the overlay district. So this work group has met for several months over the past year. Right now, the overlay district language is on the desk of Patrick Watson, so that's with legal counsel right now. It's been presented to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission still has to vote on it. So once the Planning Commission votes on it, then it will come to you all for consideration. The last thing I wanted to mention to you all, project-wise, is the waste transfer station, the existing site. The state is getting very close to completing the phase 1 environmental assessment. They will be doing one more site visit this week, and then we're looking forward to receiving that report before the end of the month. There's still a lot of work to be done as far as visioning for the future of the site once it is remediated. So there's all kinds of funding opportunities and partner opportunities that I know we'll be engaging you all on for the next year. And then just lastly, obviously you all will receive a lot of questions, complaints, things of that sort about property maintenance. Please memorize our office phone number. It is 987-2150. And Bobby Ritchie is our code enforcement officer. He's extremely responsive. So please don't hesitate to direct people to us when complaints come your way. So that's all I have for today.
Thanks.
And that brings us to staff reports. Are there any department heads who have any questions, comments, or concerns that they want to talk to the commissioner, brief them on today? Okay. Going around the table here, anything?
I've got one, I wasn't, you go ahead.
So on the, for the water plant with Hawk Properties, and their chemical supply, we talked last time that they wanted to limit the liability in the contract. In essence, it would be a limitation of liability of about $40,000. I've had different conversations with different people at Hawk. One of the kind of the proposals they floated back was, well, look, we have insurance. And it's depending on what it may be. It could be $2 million in coverage or $5 million in coverage. I did get the sense from them that if we're not going to just give them a free pass, that they're not interested in serving little cities like us. So, I mean, I think one compromise, if you all are interested, is we could have the contract say that their liability is limited to the scope of their insurance, plus the limitation that they want on top of it. That's $2 million coverage. That gives some, if something catastrophic happens, then we're dealing with catastrophe. But that does seem like a spot. I don't think there were a lot of bids on that anyway, so I'm not sure we have a whole lot of options here.
We don't, and they are a pretty recognized company nationwide.
That language is good.
So if you guys are okay, I'll just put on the limitation liability, we'll bring in their insurance coverage and then hopefully knock that out this week. 'Cause I know Chance needs to get them scheduled and they're willing and able to be here. So if that's okay with everybody, we'll do that.
Good.
Okay, I'll let them know. That's all I had, sorry.
All right, no, you're fine. So yesterday at the EMS board meeting, we started the process of modifying the budget for some training for new hires on the staff that will potentially be a $30,000 expenditure that was not budgeted for EMS, and anything that goes over $5,000 that's unbudgeted, we need to bring back to commission to seek approval before we start moving forward. So we'd like to make you guys aware of that and get approval to move forward with the training.
So this is sending 3 of our current employees to paramedic school. So which is a vacancy that, while we have staffing levels, we don't have the paramedics that we need, the number of certified paramedics that we need, and hiring them off the street is very challenging. So while our goal is to find certified paramedics that we can hire, bringing our in-house employees and training them and sending them to school is a path that I believe is advantageous for us. They will be required to sign contract agreements for
First question.
staying the length
Because it's a
of
very
time.
competitive field out there for paramedics right now. I know we're hurting, talking to Chief Devon desperately, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that
Nope,
was,
that's okay.
I was waiting to hear contract.
There will be a contract in place, our standard
Is
contract.
this school local, Lexington?
Lexington.
Do you need a motion to approve that? I would so move.
Second.
Can you summarize that motion for me? What is the motion?
A motion to approve the expenditure of 30.
I guess for EMS to amend
For
the
EMS
budget.
to amend their
EMS
budget
budget.
for the paramedic
To fund 3
Training.
training.
30,500, right?
Yes. I knew there was an and change. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
That is all I have.
Just welcome. I'm looking forward to a good first year. This is our first meeting since the end of December, so I did want to make sure to take time to acknowledge that over the cold weekends and over the holiday weekends, we had a lot of work that was done by a lot of our staff. I know the salt was put for snow, and electric department, had some challenges with one of our transformers, and of course our water distribution and collections department was out with water breaks, and then the plant was working hard, and public safety. So it was a very busy couple of weekends, and our staff continued to rise to that challenge and provide excellent service to the community. So I just wanted to take the time to appreciate staff for what went into the last couple of weekends.
I'll go further and say our group is second to none. Man, every time, they're there in the thick of it, and the cold and the heat, and we've just got a great bunch of employees here.
Certainly. Next Tuesday, the 17th, the Attorney General's office is holding a opioid abatement advisory commission meeting in Lexington that I'll be attending. It is after hours. I can send information on that if there's anybody else interested in attending. We did receive some opioid abatement funds. We received a check for about $40,000. I don't have the number exact with me right now, but we will continue to receive approximately $10,000 a year for the next couple of years for these funds. This is federal, which rolls down to the state level, which will roll down to the city level. Having some discussions with the judge on how can we collaborate with the county and the city and other agencies to make sure we're using these funds not only in accordance with all of the rules that we have to do, but in order to really make the most of the funding opportunities that we have. So police and fire and everybody have been brought into those discussions, and we don't necessarily have the plans, but we do segregate the money separately so that those funds can only be used on appropriate projects. The City of Paris started working on a work plan or a strategic plan a couple of months back, or a year or so back. This is something that was being done in partnership with the Kentucky League of Cities at no cost to the city. With a new commission, they are willing to come in and start that process and still honor the no cost price to the city if you guys are interested in moving forward in developing a strategic working plan to guide us over the next 2 years. If so, I can get the terms and services on the next commission meeting, and we can work to get that scheduled so we can just have a healthy discussion about there are a lot of things that we want to tackle over the next 2 years, and we always know that funding isn't always available for all of them, so it's a helpful guidance for staff as we work through the budget to have that strategic guidance on what is a focus and priority. So if there's an interest there, I will re-engage the league on that.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
So, yeah.
Okay, great, wonderful. Our IT company should be on site today to work on the devices, just so those will be ready to issue. And then the last thing I have is making the audit committee assignment, Commissioner Withrow, if I could also get a motion for the bank's purposes to add him as an authorized signer on our account, so somebody can make that motion. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, great, thank you. That is the end of my reports, Mayor.
Getting back to Brian, what about Mayor Pro Tem? Do we need to do that today, or
That was included in
was
the,
that included in the?
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't mention any names, though, did we?
Wallace.
Wallace.
Well, you know,
I guess the only thing that I would have would be that vacation. We're still, the 23rd, we gave the folks today off, and firefighters and police officers, we still.
Yes, we're doing some research on how other communities handle the holiday pay, and we'll bring back, because it will also include a financial analysis of what options we have for making a change to policy.
That'll work.
I have a couple of things. People started calling before we even took the oath of office, so here you go. There's a group of people, maybe about 3 or 4 people, that walk every day and every afternoon. And they're noticing that there are a lot of cars and trucks that are now being parked on sidewalks, which means they have to step out into the road. I don't know if this is something that Chief Thomas can look into, and maybe Mr. Smith as well. They're also saying that once the trucks and cars are not on the sidewalks, it looks like that they are beginning to break the sidewalks down because they are parking illegally. And they also had a complaint about the fact that a lot of people in Paris do not remove their trash cans from the front of the house sidewalk area once the trash has been picked up on a Thursday. They just leave it out there. And sometimes it rolls out into the path of the sidewalk and sometimes into the path of the road. So that's something we need to look into. And the last thing, I brought this up at one of our code enforcement meetings. With the tornadoes in western Kentucky and the flooding in eastern Kentucky and our little flooding that we have here periodically, most people don't seem to know who our emergency management director is and what he does, and just in general what his office is all about. So maybe we can ask him to come to our next meeting, give a short presentation on what he does and how we as the city can help him when these emergencies occur in Paris. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And a note on those, Chief will look at the parking on the sidewalks, the sidewalk maintenance, the way our ordinances are worded currently, it is the responsibility of the homeowner that is attached to that. We have offered sidewalk repair grant matching opportunities for Beautiful to apply for, and I anticipate we will continue to do that. But those have been in targeted areas when we have done those. And then the trash for removal, that'll be a code enforcement thing as well, and we'll talk to them.
There is an ordinance about parking on sidewalks, and there is one 24 hours, you're supposed to take a trash can, put it away.
Commissioner Gray?
I just have one thing. I have interest in honoring a citizen for their volunteering, and I want to maybe do a proclamation. And if we still, it's something that I get with Johnny about. And that's it. I just wanted to make sure how to go about getting that done.
What are you asking?
The proclamation to recognize a lifelong local volunteer that's put in many, many hours for the children of our community, just to recognize her.
The upcoming KLC training, is that something we go on and sign up for, or do we?
I'm happy
Or is
to
it
get
too
you
late?
registered if it's still open. It's next week, so.
Yeah, 18th, 19th.
we can get you registered. Is there anybody else interested in attending? It's in Lexington, and it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week.
Do they still have these sessions periodically throughout the year?
So this is their academy, which is
Mhm.
offered is it every year, Stephanie, or every other year, do you know?
Every other.
So they offer different training throughout the year, but this is their overview academy.
And if it's too late, I understand. That's all I have. Thank you.
Are there any other items to come before the board at this time? Hearing none, may I get a motion to dismiss?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you. Yes, sir.
Who in this fucking here? A lot of discussion.